everyone, and welcome to today's professional development seminar of Understanding Phonemes. I'd like to start off with our agenda for the day. We're going to start this off with an introduction. So I'm going to give you guys a definition and a basic overview of what is a phoneme. Then we're going to compare the consonant phonemes and the vowel phonemes so that we can kind of see the differences between the two. Then we're going to classify phonemes and practice pronouncing phonemes together. And then after that, I'm going to give you guys some strategies for teaching phonemes to your English language learners. And then I'm going to give you guys some final tips and strategies for integrating phonemic awareness activities into your daily instruction. So let's get started. What is a phoneme? To define it, a phoneme is the smallest unit of sound in any language. Why is it important for you to know this? Because phonemes are the building blocks of language, and they distinguish one word from another. When phonemes are combined, words are formed. Changing one single phoneme can change a word to a completely different word with a completely different meaning. So for an example of that, let's say you have the word cat. What are the phonemes in cat? K, a, t. Now let's change the phoneme k to the phoneme m. So now we're going to have at, which makes it mat. What is phonemic awareness? There's a large umbrella that falls over phonemic awareness, but the core skills are isolation, blending, and segmenting. So with isolation, I'm going to give you a word. We already used cat, we'll use it again. What is the end sound in cat? Cat. It's, there you go. And then you have blending. We'll change the word up a little bit. We'll say d, a, g. What word did I just give you? Dog. Correct. And then there's going to be segmenting, which is just the opposite of blending. So I'm going to give you a word, dog. Can you tell me what the sounds in dog are? D, a, g. Correct. That's segmenting. Then there's the advanced skills, which are addition, deletion, and substitution. So with addition, I'm going to give you a word. Let's say mile. And then I'm going to give you a phoneme to add to the beginning of that word. So add s to mile. And what do you get? Smile. Yep. And then deletion is going to be just the opposite of that. So I'm going to give you a word, smile. Take the phoneme s off of it. Now what do you have? Mile. Yep. And then let's do substitution. So let's say you have the word, dog. Okay. Now we're going to substitute the g for a t. What word do you have now? D, a, t, dot. There you go. So why are these skills important for you to know? These skills are incredibly useful in decoding, which is the ability to, spell out words, and spelling. Decoding and spelling, those are two skills that are incredibly important for reading and writing, as well as building reading fluency. Now let's look at consonant phonemes versus vowel phonemes. With consonant phonemes, you're going to feel a partial or total obstruction of airflow. Also, with consonant phonemes, they're going to be generally less sonorous, meaning less loud and less able to be prolonged due to the obstruction. Consonant phonemes, they typically form the onset, which is the beginning, or the coda, sometimes both, which is the end of a syllable. And with every syllable, there's typically going to always be a consonant and a vowel. The English language has approximately 24 consonant phonemes. Then there's vowel phonemes. With vowel phonemes, there's going to be minimal to no obstruction of the airways. They are generally more sonorous, meaning louder, and can be prolonged easily since the air flows freely. The vowel phonemes almost always form the nucleus or the peak of a syllable. And there are approximately 15 to 20 vowel phonemes, which can be a little confusing. So a lot of people think phoneme, or a lot of people think vowels. They think A, E, I, O, U, which is 5. But if you think about it, each vowel makes multiple sounds. So there's going to be approximately 15 to 20 vowel phonemes. Now let's classify the phonemes. There are 2 main types, short vowels and long vowels. With the short vowels, they are often thought of as the most foundational vowel sounds. And they are one short sound represented by a singular vowel. And then with long vowels, these are vowels that say their name. So in that it's, A is A, I is I. And there are multiple vowel patterns that can lead to the long vowel sound. So let's break those down a little further. The short vowels can be broken down into single consonant. Examples of that would be hat or cat. The closed syllable, a great example of that is napkin. And then the consonant LE, like cattle. And then there's the long vowel types. So there's vowel teams, which is where, 2 vowels team up to make one sound, like paid and heat. And there's complex vowels, which is similar to the vowel teams, but a little different, like caught or bought. And then there's R-controlled vowels. And those are where there's an R immediately following the vowel that changes the vowel sound. Examples of that would be sort or hard. And then there's open syllables. So that's where the syllable ends in the vowel, like we, she, hi. And then there's diphthongs. An example of that would be the word coin. So you kind of hear 2 distinct sounds, but they, it's still considered one phoneme. And then there's the silent E long vowel. So words like that would be like bride or maid, so you hear the I saying I and you hear the A saying A. But if you didn't have that silent E, you wouldn't hear that. You'd hear brid or mad. All right, so moving on, we're going to be talking about how to pronounce phonemes. With pronouncing phonemes, There are multiple considerations you have to take into account, both for consonants and vowels. In looking at consonants, you have to consider the manner of articulation. There are stops, and this is where there's a complete blockage and then a sudden release of air. An example of that would be B. Everybody say it together. B. So there's a complete blockage and then a sudden release of air. Then there's nasals. In these, your mouth is blocked, and there's no sound coming out of your throat. It's coming out of your nose. So everybody put 2 fingers on your nose. Great job. Now we're going to make the sound You see that? So there's nothing coming out of my mouth. And if you feel your nose vibrating to make that sound. And then there's fricatives. And this is where there's a continuous airstream escaping through a narrow gap in your mouth. Examples of this would be or. So everybody, let's take 1 finger and we're going to make the sound. Yeah, there's this steady stream of air escaping through a narrow gap. And then you also have to consider whether it is voiced or non-voiced. So certain consonants, they will be voiced, meaning that there is a vibration in the throat. So everybody, if you could just put some fingers on your throat. If it's voiced, like you're going to feel a vibration in the throat. Everybody, let's do it together. Yeah, there's a vibration in the throat. But then there's also the non-voiced phonemes, which is going to be like, let's do fingers again, p, 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 or t, t. You feel that? There's no vibration in the throat. Now let's look at vowel phonemes. With vowel phonemes, as I said previously, there's mostly like no obstruction to the airflow. So your mouth is for the most part going to be open and you're going to be thinking about tongue positioning. So with vowel phonemes, the first one we have to consider is high vowels. And this is where the tongue is close to the roof of your mouth. An example of this is the E. E. You feel that? The tongue is going to be close to the top of your mouth. Let's try it with beat or key. Your tongue is going to go up towards the roof of your mouth. Then there's low vowels. In this, your tongue is low in the mouth, sometimes flat. A good example of this would be the ah sound. Everybody do it with me. Ah, as in father or car. Your tongue is going to be close to the bottom of your mouth. And then there's front vowels. And with this, the tongue is pushed forward. So let's try the A sound. A sound. You see that? My tongue is close to the front of my mouth. With bait and great. And then there's back vowels, where your tongue is pulled back. So let's try all together the ooh. Ooh, you feel that? Your tongue's going to go back. So boot, blue, your tongue's going to go. So those are kind of the things that you have to think about when pronouncing phonemes. Now we are going to move next to some generally just best practices for teaching phonemic awareness, teaching phonemes to your English language learners. And the first and biggest thing with this is that you need to be using systematic and explicit instruction. With this, you're going to want to follow a clear scope and sequence, which is something that all students benefit from, but especially ELL students. And that's using a structured approach that progresses in nature from being, simple to complex. And then with explicit instruction, you need to be very concise in the language you're using, and you need to clearly model all of the skills you're teaching. And by doing this, you're providing clear instruction for your students that leaves no room for them to guess. And then you also need to be providing rich feedback to your students. And then the next big thing is application with reading and writing. You're going to want to give your students real texts to read and real writing activities. For reading, decodable texts are essential. And decoding is where students are able to sound out a word if they're struggling. And decodable text, they use a heavy percentage of words that have the specific phonics skills that your students have been working on. And then dictation activities, that's guided writing activities. Those are going to help students to encode words, just spelling, and that strengthens their sound to print connection. And then you're going to want to engage in plenty of word awareness activities like word sorts, word building. And these activities will require your students to kind of manipulate and move around and identify sounds. So yeah, following that, I'm just going to give you guys some final tips on how to integrate phonemic awareness activities into your daily instruction. I think one of the best ways to do this is during circle time or class meetings. If you don't call it circle time, class meetings. You're going to want to make it fun for the students, make it easy, make it enjoyable. That's going to really help to keep the students engaged and keep the students learning. So you could do an onset rhyme game where you give students a word and you have them separated by the onset and the rhyme. And then you could do a rhyme generation game. So you say a word and you have students brainstorm as many rhyming words as possible for that word you gave them. So like, let's say there's a coat rack in the classroom and you give the word coat. How many words can the students come up with that rhyme the word coat? Moat, boat, wrote. And then another game that you could do during circle time would be syllable count, so you could go around the circle and have students say their name and count out, how many syllables are in their name. Let's say you have a student named Aaron. He says, my name's Aaron, Aaron. Okay, that's 2 syllables. Or you could give the class a word, something found in the classroom, like a pencil, pencil. That's 2 syllables. And these are just easy, fun activities that you can do with your students every day at circle time, just to be reviewing the skills that you've taught them. Another time that you could do this is during transitions. So I'll give you an example of that. Let's say you have students, getting ready to line up to go to recess. You could say, stand up and get in line if you can blend desk. Yep, go ahead and get in line. Or, if you have students going circle time, you could say, tell me the sounds in fish as you walk to the rug. Fish. That's right. Let's go to the rug. You could do it during read alouds, so let's say you're reading a story about a pig. You could say, the main character in this story is a pig. Who can tell me the sounds in pig? P, G. That's right. Or you could say, this story is about a young boy. Who can tell me the first sound in boy? B. There you go. So right there, we practiced the skills, the core skills of phonemic awareness. And you could do it during small group instruction. You could do sound boxes, give each group of student, a list of words and have them push counters into a box for every sound they hear. So again, these are simple, easy activities that the students can engage in, that, keeps you reviewing the phonemic awareness skills that you've taught every day. And that's really all I have for you guys today. So I just want to say thank you for listening. And that's all.